Hi, and welcome to another edition of Speak Up Presents. Tonight we're going to be talking about the League of Women Voters here in Hillsborough County, and very fortunately have with us Annette Delisle, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Hillsborough County. Welcome. I'm glad you could make it. Cindy Kane, welcome too, secretary of the local organization, the League. And Helen Gordon Davis, how long a member, Helen?
Former 1954.
1954, former state senator. Of course, you all know that meant she was about 2 or 3 years old when she joined that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, Helen, tell us about what the League was like back when it started in the county.
In 1952, I think it started in Tampa. We called it the League of Women Voters of Tampa at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I joined in '54. And I remember the first thing that I became involved with was at the old county courthouse. And that county courthouse was where the park in the middle of Tampa is right now, where Marine Bank used to be.
I went looking online today,
Yes.
and there was a courthouse there that was built in the late 1800s that was taken down in the early 50s, right?
Right.
And another one went up, right? Okay.
And we built a graveyard there, and right in front of the courthouse. And we had a big sign on it that said, "Lost votes that were buried because they didn't take the opportunity." And it was very effective. We kept passing out pamphlets about the importance of voting. And so that was the first opportunity I had to really get involved with the League, and I was very impressed. People were very impressed.
That was a good visual for people who... What do we have it now? I think it's something like less than 40%. Is it 30-something percent?
The lowest in the world.
That vote, right?
Yes. That vote.
And is it worse now than it was then, do you think? Or does anybody
Well, of course, it
even know
was
that?
easy then, because everyone was registered as a Democrat. And of course, in my political career, it was a very, very, very deleterious to my career, because many people that had come down from the North as Republicans, I had begged them to please change their registration from Democrat to a Republican so we could have a two-party system in the state of Florida. And then, of course, those people couldn't vote for me. So it was interesting. But we really tried as hard as we could to register every person that crossed our paths. But of course, it's still pretty bad.
And this trick of showing that there were so many people who didn't vote, is somebody planning on doing that again? Because we certainly could use a little bit of that again.
I don't know.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
But this was a stepping stone for you, right, Helen? You went from
College to the League.
And from the League. The League encouraged participation so much that you did run. Is that
yes,
part
but
of?
no, that wasn't really why. But I was very, very active. In the 1960s, we took up multinational corporations, which didn't make me any friends because I became the chair of that particular study, and we were able to document how much money the state was losing because these people would set up their organizations in a foreign country and then not have to pay taxes in America. And as I said, that was not the best thing to do if I ever knew at that time that I would run for office.
But is that one of the things that encouraged you to run personally, just having gotten so involved with the League that you knew more about the issues?
Yeah. About knowing more about the issues, if I may, I'd just like to say that when I was elected, like Robert Redford in the candidate, I sat in that big chair in the chambers and said to myself, how will I ever be able to really fulfill the obligations that I'd promised to do? And then the first man got up. And I knew that the League had given me so much more information that I didn't have to worry about a thing.
You felt really informed.
I was informed,
Yeah.
and that's what the League does for you.
Mm-hmm. Tell me where we are today. You're the new president. When did you take office, Annette?
In May 22nd,
All right.
and we have a really good board this year, and we're energized and to try and get people to register to vote.
Is that
from
the
high
number
school.
one goal? The number one goal is register more people, or
Get
do you
them
prioritize your goals?
probably informing and educating the public on the issues, and telling people that they can really have an influence in public policy, because there's such apathy out there, and I think this is something that the League also brings to the electorate is a study of issues like Helen mentioned. We take up issues like one of our issues this year is monitoring the voting machines. So we have a committee that's going to be at the elections from beginning to end, working with the supervisor of elections to make sure that the voting machines are working, that you know, the whole process. And interestingly enough, we took on this project before it got in the news, and so that's what the league does too. We're ahead of things, and we study it. Then we bring it to the public and say, this is what we found, and it's always letting them know the pros and the cons of every issue. We're not biased, we're nonpartisan, and we're special because we're the only organization that really provides this type of education to the electorate.
You started looking at monitoring the voting machines before the concerns started being expressed. Like right now, isn't there something out there that, what if terrorism interrupts our voting process and we have to change the voting date? That's petrifying to me, that anyone would hijack our date, and how could they, and all that kind of things. But since we're all now going to be electronic, is this possible?
Well, we're looking at, first we're starting with a paper trail business, and
we lost our paper trail in Hillsborough County.
Well, as I understand it, there is still a paper trail. It's maybe not as extensive as our prior voting, the way we did voting, but there is computerized paper that can be gotten from the machines, according to a supervisor of elections. So I think more needs to be studied about that, and the public needs to be more informed about this issue. The State League of Women Voters also is looking at it, and we, coming under the State League, are looking at it at our county level.
So this isn't just happening in Hillsborough County, Cindy. This is happening.
Yeah, all
the leagues are doing it all over the state, or just this state, or all over the country.
They can choose. Each league in every county can choose what they want to study, and we have chosen this one issue, and this is one of the issues.
And this would be something most Florida chapters would think about, wouldn't it be?
I would think so.
If they had
Since
the
we
manpower,
look so bad?
If they had the manpower and the membership base to support this, and actually had the manpower to go out there, they would.
Do you have a position on this felon list?
We have no.
The league hasn't taken any position?
No.
The fact that Florida is only one of, is it 6 states, Helen?
You're right.
That doesn't restore rights, citizenship rights to people who've done their time and paid their debt.
Yeah.
Do you personally have a thought if the league doesn't?
Well, probably what's going to happen is the state league will take a position and look at this. It's a pretty new topic, a pretty new subject. So the league doesn't hurry into things. We take a thorough look at it, study, and have discussion and forums and things of that sort, and then we come to a certain agreement, consensus among everybody.
How do the chapters work then? You're independent, is that it? You're all independent chapters with affiliation over a major one or state?
Yeah, every county, not every county. Most counties will have a league base. Then the state, there's a state association and then a national association too.
But then you might take on issues that are more local to you, or something that is more important to you.
Right.
One of the things we haven't discussed though is that the league tries to give all the pros and cons on the constitutional amendments every time there's an election. And so we really
right now we got a bunch again,
we
don't
have,
we?
well, 4, I think. And so, but that is one of the greatest things that the league does for the populace, is to give them information about what the pros and cons are of all these constitutional amendments. Too bad we didn't do it about the pigs.
Yes.
The pig would have won again anyway.
You think so?
Pigs are more important than women's right to vote, as you know. We're all very well aware of that. There are other issues, though, that are important for voters to know right now, and I know one of the biggest ones for years has been campaign finance reform. Is there a position that's been taken on that, and
that is not one of our issues for this year. Over the years, as more and more women, and by the way, we are an organization made up of men and women.
I was going to ask you the membership.
Yes.
But it's primarily women.
Primarily
women. So
women.
what percentage of men do you have of men?
We have, well,
Men
and then we have,
12%.
and we have family
Yeah.
membership as well. So it's a small percentage.
Did you say 12%?
Maybe 10, maybe 10%. We need volunteers because as we get into this generation that we're in right now, when I was growing up, there was more commitment to community service and more our right to vote was so important to us for my immigrant grandparents. You know, I wouldn't think of not going to the polls and vote. And I don't know if that's the case with 20 and 30-year-olds nowadays.
Well, so many things have happened that it's kind of amazing. Helen and I were talking the other night about the fact that women are working who weren't you know, there were lots of women who could spend a lot more time volunteering.
Exactly.
Because they didn't have to hold down a job. And now two-family incomes are necessary, and or women want to work, and they don't have as much time to do the volunteerism that they had. And then throw in this, I have 3 20-something-year-old sons. They're mobile. The technology has made the kids be all over the place all the time. You know, they're in a plane here, there, the other place. They don't have like a home. I mean, even with an apartment, I don't think they visit there but very long. And so they don't really feel like they belong to their communities at 20 and 30 as much. And maybe they will once they get married and settle down and they're really in an environment, but they're moving too much around and they're not planted. Don't you think that's some of it too?
That's part of it. And that's where I was going, where we don't have the number of volunteers that we used to have, because when you were 62 years and years ago, you retired. Now, 62-year-olds are in the workforce.
True.
And so their time is very limited. And you're talking about mobile societies. I think even older folks are more mobile
they're
now.
visiting those grandchildren.
And, you know, we have more and more people,
No, and they have jobs.
Yeah,
jobs.
or living down here part of the year and, you know, somewhere else the other part of the year, so there's no real connection to the community. So as any organization, we have a challenge that we need to tell people what we do and the value of the League of Women Voters, and try and to bring them into the community. And once they get in, you know, there's nothing like an educated voter. It's just like, you know, you can see their eyes open up.
I'd rather see one of those than somebody that comes in with a list that their church minister gave them or something. Vote these people blindly.
Or just one party, right?
Just vote down this one party line. Well, Helen would tell you to do that. Just vote.
That's true.
That's right. Forget about that. That's
Never mind. I didn't
well,
see
right down this line here.
Right.
Don't even look back. But no, informed is better. And then you'd vote for the same party. I'm sure Helen would still say.
But one of the points that we have to make is the fact that the League was very prescient. They were forward on every single issue that there is today. In the 50s, we were studying global warming. In the 50s, we were studying growth management. And even with multinational corporations, now they're calling it outsourcing. But we were studying it before ever the word became a national word. And so I think it's very important to emphasize that the League has really been forward with almost every issue that we have today.
I'm wondering whether some of the great organizations that have been around for a long time, like the League, don't need to start raising money so that they can employ people.
Yes.
Because you're just not going to get the volunteer base because of the competing economic interest, and especially right now.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a plot and a plan about that.
Yeah.
Just make sure everybody has to work so they can't volunteer and change the voting structure. What are some of the big achievements of the League besides this information and some of the topics that you just mentioned, Helen?
I know when I joined the League in 1990, there was a big study on middle schools.
Right.
And the League took a real lead in middle schools, and here
In
we
terms of what, the fact that they were all by
implementing them.
themselves here, or?
Implementing them and all. There was no middle school at that time at all.
Right. And
What do you mean
when
no
I
middle
became
school?
president,
You mean you went from what?
excuse me,
Sixth grade center to high school? They dropped the middle school for a while,
It was
The junior
1 through
high.
6, and then 7 through 9.
right?
was the middle school.
Was the middle school. But what are you saying? It didn't exist?
No, the word. I mean, I don't even think the word existed.
Probably
No,
junior
it
high
didn't.
or something.
Yeah,
It
called
was
the
called
junior
junior high school.
Well, they had for a while here in Florida, sixth grade center, seventh grade center.
was
Which
after.
was awful, I thought, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Something else? Go ahead, Helen.
Well, I
I'm
was going to
sorry.
say that when I was president, which was from 67 to 69, we took up the desegregation issue. And that was the hottest, that was when the courts had said that we had to desegregate by 68.
That was the Brown versus,
No,
oh, that was a different one.
yes.
Okay,
And-
Manning.
And so the league had a mass meeting of all the parents. There were more than 1,000 people there to talk to the white people as well as the African Americans to ease their concerns about what would happen when black and white students got together. And there were actually more concerns with the white community than there was with the black community. They all wanted their children to know what it was to live in a multi-cultural society. And so it was a hot issue at the time. And I feel very, very, very happy and very proud of the fact that we did answer a lot of concerns that the parents had at the time.
That was before busing went in. Is that about then?
That
or
was
no?
around the time.
Around
Before,
that same time, to try to head off any problem.
Yeah. Right.
Some others,
More recently, we had a forum on the Patriot Act.
oh,
which
right.
was-
We
which-
covered it here, I think. I'm
which
pretty
was,
sure we did.
Which was very interesting. I never would have known anything about the Patriot Act had I not been at that forum.
All right, I think we ran it on our channels right
It,
here.
it was great. The league provides a venue and a place where we moderate. We're totally neutral on the issue, and then we have again the pro and the cons, so people can come to their own conclusions, but hopefully an educated conclusion.
What about right now with debates? I know you've done. I've started trying to catch you with that before, but we're on the air. Let's just do it here.
Okay.
You're not going to be covering primary debates this year
Right,
because of what
right.
time or
It's
number of people?
Cindy's
What's the
involved.
problem?
Yes.
Putting on debates is a huge undertaking, and just as our discussion before is the membership is down, we need more volunteers. So we chose to put most of our efforts into the general election and the Q&A that goes in the paper and live forums this year.
So we're not covering it here at Public Access or any of the other channels?
For the primary?
No, are you doing debates at all?
Yes.
General election?
Yeah. Are you doing them on our channels or another channel?
We're doing them all channels.
Yeah, all.
What do you mean?
Well,
They
don't know
were
it.
done on our channels before.
You just don't know it yet, Louise.
yes, I know.
When were we going to be informed? Oh, here it is. Here's everybody back there. Hands up. Oh, no kidding.
The chair for the debates will be getting in touch with you any minute.
Aha.
Good news.
Okay.
Phone's
Yeah.
ringing now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we may see them on our channels here. Oh, well,
Yes.
that will be great. I'm glad that you're doing that. And in terms of absentee, there's been some reports in the paper recently about the impact. I know there's always been an impact with absentee voting, but it seems like the articles I'm reading are that this is even larger now. This may make or break this election.
Yes.
And what are you hearing about that? And are you also trying to get people to do absentee ballots so that they're ahead of the
Yes.
game?
And also early voting, and I have something
the
here
early voting. This
from
is
from the supervisor of elections. From August the 16th to August 30th, you can go and vote at different locations all throughout the county.
Why don't you show that to the cameraman?
well, I don't know if we can.
I don't know if we can, but some of the locations are College Hill Library, Jimmy Keel Regional Library, the Riverview Library, the Supervisor of Elections Office, the Jan Platt Library, the New Tampa Library, Westgate Library, in the Robert Gilder Election Service Center and the Plant City Library.
So it looks like 8 or 9 locations where in
Most of the
2000,
libraries.
Those two?
Yes.
in 2002 we only had 2, right?
Two
We had one out in
locations,
the
Right.
county and one right at the supervisor of elections office,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And I went.
This is better.
I went myself downtown because it was closer for me, you know, and it was the easiest thing to do. You just went in and out. So there's no excuse for people not voting nowadays, either through absentee or going early. You know, it's on your way to work, on your way to shop, on, you know, on your way home.
You can call. If you
So
call
it
the
sounds
supervisor
like somebody's got a
election.
question about this. Let's take this. You're on Speak Up.
Yeah, hello. My
Yes.
name is Tony. My name is Tony, and I just want to say that hi to my friend Umberto. And who do y'all think is going to win the election, the presidential election?
What is your name?
Tony,
Tony. How old are you, Tony?
13.
You know, I think this is wonderful that you're calling and concerned about this. Who do you think should win? Can I ask you?
I think it should be Kerry because you know he's gonna you know Bush. You know that movie Fahrenheit 9/11?
Yes, did you go see it?
Yeah, with my sister-in-law, and well, you know they talked a lot of bad stuff about Bush, and you know, so I just think you know Kerry should win.
You think Kerry should win?
Yeah, but
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your call, and I'll ask the folks here if they're going to say anything because they're supposed to be bipartisan.
Bipartisan, right?
But I'll ask them. But Tony, thank you.
all right.
We've got a future voter there.
I know it. I'm very proud of
I'm
Tony.
very
What do you-
excited.
I don't have to ask Helen this question, do you? Helen, who should win this race?
Who is going to win? Who should win?
Helen, you want to answer Tony?
We're a nonpartisan organization, and speaking for the league, we cannot tell her who she should vote for.
But we
Okay.
can bring you all the issues, sponsor
Right.
debates.
See, they can't talk, Tony.
Right.
They're trapped in their Legal Women
But,
Voter
but it's
clothing.
wonderful that she's interested, and I
That's
want
a young
to.
boy, I think
I
it
want
was.
to congratulate him.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
great.
great.
They're supposed to be able to register in high school now before they graduate. It's like pre-registering.
Oh, won't that be great?
So,
they have to
That would be
wait.
wonderful.
Right. That it's very important for them to get, just like their driver's license, to get in that modal. They need to get their driver's license when they're 16. They should be able to get their voting card.
But you
know,
can
when
also
they're 18.
call the supervisor of elections, and she will send you the absentee ballot, which is what my husband does.
The league, I've been doing that lately because sometimes you just never know what's going to happen that day.
Right.
Whether you're going to get tied up in a meeting
It's
or
a
something.
wonderful
You think
idea.
you're going to go in the morning and then something happens and, boy, you just don't. You want to make sure you get it in. And not only that, here's another reason. You know it's in paper. You know there's a hard copy.
That's
I mean,
right.
I'm all for technology, but I
That's a very
definitely
good
know
point.
there's a hard copy there. And so everybody should be doing that. The league also encourages grassroots activities, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
What do you do to encourage people to either run for office or make a change in their neighborhood or make some change in the political process?
Well, one of the things that we do for people who want to run for office is we hold a day-long session to help somebody learn how to run for office. We
Campaign.
have somebody come in and show them what kind of signs to have up, what colors mean what colors, public image. And we had that just about a month ago, wasn't it?
About a month ago, we held the Candidate Academy.
That's right.
And in coordination with the Extension Service at University of Florida.
Did you get many?
We got
I
a good.
want to say 40, 50 people.
Oh,
That's
my
pretty
goodness. Yeah,
good.
that's tremendous.
Interested in all of that.
They came from other counties as well. We had people from Orlando and I think
I'll bet you
Sarasota.
forgot to let us know that so we could put it on our overnight bulletin board, which we have here. You might have had 150 people.
Okay.
You're going to have to let us know about future events like that. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
All the work that I have to do, I don't have any time to actually find
What is this? Oh, it's like a foot away from the trash can.
Oh, yeah, hang on a second. You won't believe this. Please tell me somebody didn't just drop that there.
My husband would freak if he saw this.
Yeah, well, it's been there a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Man, I'm like this close to throwing it away myself.
I don't blame you. I mean, who would
To the trash can.
Don't just take a stand. Act. the most powerful ways to simply register and vote.
Once you see the world through math and science, you'll never see anything the same way again. Go to girlsgotech.org.
You'll see.
Two kings, two jacks. Nice hand. 220. We've got a polyp at City Park.
220, we're on it.
You never know when a colon polyp is going to show up.
Into the diaphragm.
Get the polyp early and stop colon cancer before it starts. Don't wait for symptoms. Get the test. Get the polyp.
You hate me because I'm a player.
Get the cure.
Are your kids getting enough art? Where's the music? I don't hear any. Arts programs are being cut, making it hard for my kids and yours. Arts education is important, so it goes. Fight for it, because the less arts kids get, the more it shows. Rapping, painting, or creating music, arts education is key. How's that, Mom?
Remember what I told you, Chuck. Less bebop and more hip-hop.
Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
God, speak up. And very fortunately with the League of Women Voters and Annette Delisle, Cindy Kane, and Helen Gordon Davis. And we just touched on, we just talked about court reform. Tell me about court reform. This is an issue that the League's also gotten involved in. And then I want to bounce back to campaign reform.
Okay. Well, in 1967 and 69, I was the president of the League of Women Voters. No, excuse me, let's wipe it out. I talked about that already, about the desegregation, but in 72, I was put on the state board, and we took up the judiciary. And I was very fortunate in the fact that at that time we had 15 different kinds of courts in Florida.
50?
15.
15,
And
okay.
so as you went from one county to the other, you had no idea what court you would be going into if it was not in your own county. And so the League had decided at that time to be very careful and to try to consolidate all the courts into 2 courts, circuit and county. I was the chair of that study, and together with the Florida Bar, excuse me, we decided that we would change the whole article of judiciary in the state constitution. I named it Order in the Courts, and we went all over the state to try to show people how important it was to consolidate the duties of those courts. Article 5 passed the constitutional amendment, and I was very proud of that. The governor had made me the chair of the commission on the court reform, and so that was what propelled me into politics, as a matter of fact. And I think the studies have propelled a lot of the League chairs of different studies into politics. I had no intention of ever running for office, but the fact that I had met so many wonderful people, they had all come to me and asked me to run. And it never had occurred to me in my life to be a politician. I was going to be a great actress. And so I declared, and I had no idea how to run a campaign. The League was not involved in doing any kind of campaign knowledge.
They didn't do this that they do today, helping people
not at all.
Figure out how to campaign.
Right. But I didn't realize that being so involved in the community, that I was the first woman, as you know, from Hillsborough County that was elected to office. And no one was more surprised than myself, because I really thought that women had no chance in Hillsborough County. But I surprised them all, and particularly myself. I guess I was the most surprised of all. And it was a wonderful experience, and I suggest that I've been talking all over the county now on different topics, but most of them have been for women to run for office, and how terribly important it is for women to really take their place in this society.
In the House and the Senate, in the right House and the right Senate.
And the Washington, D.C. particularly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've really helped a lot of people
I've tried.
to learn how to operate in the system and so forth. And talking about that, back to campaign reform, which is part of the problem women have had for a long time because they didn't have the access to money as well as it's been done for years with men. I know, Emily's List and some of these other organizations, there's a Republican one as well. Wish is at it, have tried to just back women candidates and so forth. But campaign reform seems like such a confusing thing to me. Like, how do you actually do campaign reform? What is the position of the League on that?
Well, I think
that money be supplied by the state or through the voter themselves, or
public financing.
Pardon me?
We do believe in public financing.
Yeah.
That the public finance it instead of the.
It's terrible. There's nothing
and then
worse.
what do you believe in curbing the in-kind contributions, which is such a big part of?
No, that's the least of it. In-kind contributions are very small compared to the influence of lobbyists.
Exactly.
I mean, they're in the hall. There are hundreds of lobbyists in the halls. That's why they're called lobbyists. They're always in the lobby. They take up your time in your office. They sometimes even call you in the middle of a session to tell you how to vote on the bill that's coming up. I mean, there's no doubt that there is a terrible thing about the whole political system when you're talking about the lobbyists. And we've just got to find another way to do it. So and you speak to McCain, who's a great Republican, and he passed that McCain-Feingold bill, which started to stop the influence of lobbyists on voting, but it didn't go far enough, unfortunately.
Now, there's really nothing wrong with lobbyists per se. It's the money that they wield, isn't it? I mean, the fact of the matter is the democratic system should have great numbers of people all vying for their interests for it to actually be right.
You can write, you can
write,
telephone,
you can show up, you can call,
telephone,
you
not
can
show up, because
showing up
showing
is bad.
up, well, they're always in the balcony. Your constituents aren't in the balcony, but they are, and there you have in the front of the both houses of the Senate and the House. There's a big board with a green light and a red light on every single person's name, so they can see immediately how you're voting on their issues. And I want to tell you, it takes tremendous fortitude to withstand the pressure of these people that are those hovering presences. It takes tremendous fortitude to withstand the pressure of powerful people when you want to be liked. You want the approbation of powerful people, and you want the money. You need the money that they give you. And it also takes tremendous fortitude to withstand the contempt of your own colleagues for not going along with the crowd, knowing that you're there to represent the interests of those who put you there.
Mm.
I think term limits has had an effect, whether positive or negative, where lobbyists now have more power, wield more power, because
how is that?
You're and Helen may speak to this better than I can, but from sitting where I'm sitting and from the outside is you have the aide that's more educated about the issues than the person that we elected, because they are so busy going to meetings, committee meetings and voting and all of that kind of thing, and things sometimes happen in the back rooms with these lobbyists.
And the staff.
And the staff.
That's what you said, the aides.
Then the aide is influenced, and the aide is the only one that's there from year to year to year to year to year. They don't have term limits.
Well, you're not talking about the aides. You're talking about the staff, the committee
staff. The
yeah.
staff.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. The staff. So it's, and this is not a
you
league.
mean
I'm not speaking for the league. I'm speaking for myself as an individual.
Right.
This is what I see as a problem. I always felt term limits were, you voted them in or you voted them out. So I don't know.
So the fact that somebody can only be in, 8 years or something,
right.
You're saying what they're doing is relying more
on the staff.
On the staff because they're time shorter, they don't get to know as much.
Right.
Although I remember years and years ago visiting you in Tallahassee a couple of times, Helen, and seeing outside the door what I just could not believe anybody could possibly read, that amount of material. Mm-hmm. There were stacks for the day, is this correct?
That's right.
There were stacks of bills and so forth that were going to come up that day that were bigger than tons of Manhattan telephone books or something. It was just really huge. there's no way they could get through them. So somebody's got to summarize that for them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, fortunately for me, and I am an insomniac, so I used to stay up all night and read all the bills. And people would say, what does it do? What does it do, Helen? But the point that you're making, that the staff of that committee will really influence how the committee votes, is absolutely true.
And the lobbyist is going to influence that person. Even though the lobbyist is not directly involved in the staff's moving forward, right? I mean, the lobbyist is really involved in your staying in the job or not, right? Or giving enough money to money.
Yeah.
I think they did a show on that once, Cabaret. And you can break into song anytime now because she studied that part too. I know that.
If I could bring up the subject of the Commission of Status of Women.
Yes.
Which,
we did a show on that a couple of weeks ago.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, not the state.
No,
this is the Hillsborough County, right?
Which I
had
found
Susan Leisner on and Diana Kyle from Link. Is it LISC? It's the local initiative it's providing the gap money for development and for jobs and so forth. That is also helping women. Yeah, and then I had one on the living wage too. So yes, please speak about that.
Well, we have a seat. The league has a seat on the commission that Helen started. So I didn't know that you had done a show already on it. I missed it.
But please go ahead and add to it. I know you're doing some work on the. They've taken up 4 areas. The living wage. I guess one was health care, one was child care, and I'm not remembering the 4th. Right? Do you know what the issues are?
I don't know.
Said there were so many in front of them.
Right, but I was the one that named the people that would be on the commission of the status of women, and of course, the League of Women Voters was first on my list.
And we want to thank
you
her.
have a position on that.
Right.
Oh, great.
Right.
Yeah,
now, we had one, and then we didn't have one for years.
They were very controversial. This commission
Why?
is not controversial.
No, they were actually not authorized to take on certain issues, correct?
Well, they were authorized to take up anything they wanted to at the time, and that's what got them in trouble, because they were doing a lot of things that would help women, and this is at that time it was a very anti-women community.
Well, my understanding is they're not touching reproductive rights. Is that correct?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
And there's enough things to be done without worrying about that at this time.
Right. Well, the care of our children is one, and the monetary status, the economics of women in towns another. You have some events going on in town too that you put on besides the debates and the forum to help people get elected as well.
Yeah, we have quite a few committees, and one of the ones that we have is called FYI Luncheon. We don't have those all year long, but...
you have an ice cream social that's awfully
good. We do.
Yeah.
We have one of those, too.
I've been to that one.
Fundraising type thing.
Yeah.
FYI, we try to have a speaker. Probably should start those next month.
Tell them what that means.
FYI.
FYI.
For your information.
Right.
For your information. Open to anybody.
And your speakers are on the political process? Or?
Sometimes not. We'll have if there's a new person in town, like the chief of police, or like Pam Ariora, when she got elected, she was a speaker for us, representing the mayor. So not necessarily, but sometimes, yeah.
You're also keeping track of, you were talking about the red light, green light voting, yes or no, but there are other websites that are doing this, but doesn't the league also keep track of the voting records, or do you send, is there something with regard to that, so you can know your legislators better?
Yes, there's nationwide, there's something called DNET, DNET.org. And every league is supposed to input information about the candidate into that website. So locally we have a chair for that, and she has been inputting information about our local candidates into that website. And then it's going to link back to all our
so
local...
we could see how people are voting. We got another call. Let's see who this is. You're on Speak Up.
Hi, how are you people tonight?
Good.
Very interesting subject. I had a couple of questions. Maybe I don't want to overwhelm you. You're absolutely right about the influence of money. I don't quite understand it. And as far as reform goes, this public access is really good forum. I just don't think anybody watches it.
You don't think anybody what?
I don't think anybody watches it, or very few people. It should be, I've got an idea for you. If they had like outlawed all of these polling, because polls seem to influence more than dictate what's happening.
You mean you're talking about push polls now?
I'm talking about polling. I watch the news and they tell me, oh, Kerry's 5 points ahead and stuff. And that influences people. I'm going to vote for him because he's a winner. And the real issues, such as Ralph Nader lays out, are totally ignored. And he is not even allowed in these debates. I don't know, I understand. What was the last year the league actually administered the debates?
Well, they did it in 2000, I think.
I thought it was the Federal Election Commissioner.
No, in fact, we hosted them here at Public Access, and so did the Government Access Channel. We hosted the local ones here. I think we did.
I'm referring to the national. I'm sorry.
The League of Women Voters does that too.
Does the national ones as well.
Really?
Yeah. You raise an interesting point with Nader. Did you see the article the other day about how about 1/3 of the money coming to him is from the Republican Party that's trying to push Nader into the race so that that'll fracture Kerry's chances?
I don't understand the strategy. Why would
in fact they track the PACs, and if a PAC gave, let's say, $100,000 to the Republican Party, it gave $30,000 in Nader, the same PAC. It was like they took 1/3 or 1/10 or some number like this of the money that they gave the Republican Party and threw it into Nader, so that Nader could compete with, with the vote that Kerry might get, and fracture Kerry's vote. Yeah.
Dan, I don't want to keep you on here too long. There's so many things really interesting. I'll let your guests go on there.
Okay.
But one real issue is the money.
Okay. Well, let's.
Totally public. There should not be any of these 30-second commercials bashing the other one. There should be debates on there where the candidate actually gets up there and speaks his mind, and you see. And it's not questions that have been pre-screened, and his staff has, wrote his answers. I want to know how that man actually thinks.
Right.
And I really don't see that.
All right. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Thank you for calling.
Mm-hmm.
What about that? We were just talking. Did we just mention somebody just mentioned about not getting the questions ahead of time?
Oh, we in our debate.
Yes, earlier. Yes.
We were talking about another debate that occurred on a different channel
years ago,
where a opponent of Helen's wanted to know what the questions were ahead of their going on.
That the league was moderating,
and the league was moderating it, and the opponent wanted to know what are the questions ahead of time, and you wouldn't give them to him because that's your rule.
Right.
So the league does, I think, support what this gentleman's saying, that you not get the question ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And
that's even happened since I've been involved in the last 8 years, where a candidate said, I need to know what the questions are, and I need to know who the panelists are, and that just doesn't happen.
Right.
In order to be as fair as possible, they don't know, no one knows what the questions are ahead of time.
Right.
So that's
because
part of the...
Yeah, it's true. If somebody has the question ahead of time, they can get well prepared, and you really do want to see whether they can react quickly, because that's one of the things you want from them. Do they react quickly, or what do they do when they react? Do they?
And some honesty would be nice. Getting some honest answers.
The problem is, don't you think, there's so many handlers involved, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw in the paper this weekend that there's going to be yet another show like Trump's.
Yes.
But it's politics, and you will be running. A bunch of people are going to be trying to run for office, and we'll all be voting for them or something, and that's it. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a minute.
All the work that I have to do, I don't have any time to actually find
this? It's like a foot away from the trash can.
Okay, yeah, hang on a second. You won't believe this. Please tell me somebody didn't just drop that there.
My husband would freak if he saw this.
Yeah, well, it's been there a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Man, I'm like this close to throwing it away myself.
I don't blame you. I mean, who would put it
To the trash can.
Don't just take a stand. Act. The most powerful way is to simply register and vote.
Once you see the world through math and science, you'll never see anything the same way again. Go to girlsgotech.org.
You'll see.
Two kings, two jacks. Nice hand. 220. We've got a polyp at City Park.
Go 20, we're on it.
You never know when a colon polyp is going to show up.
Into the diaphragm.
Get the polyp early and stop colon cancer before it starts. Don't wait for symptoms. Get the test. Get the polyp.
You hate me because I'm a player.
Get the cure.
Are your kids getting enough art? Where's the music? I don't hear any. Arts programs are being cut, making it hard for my kids and yours. Arts education is important, so it goes. Fight for it, because the less arts kids get, the more it shows. Rapping, painting, or creating music, arts education is key. How's that, Mom?
Remember what I told you, Chuck. Less bebop and more hip-hop.
Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
We're back talking about the League of Women Voters. Clean air. I said I went to your website. I saw clean air. I went to the LeagueOfWomenVoter.org main site, and you said that's been on there for years. Are we ever going to get clean air?
Since the 50s, and it's worse now than it's ever been. And the League has certainly continued to study that as one of their major items. And we just wish that the president would listen to us once in a while, so that maybe instead of polluting more, we can really come to some decisions.
You don't think that things are better since the 50s?
Absolutely not.
Our buses don't smell like they used to. Or,
yes,
or some of the things.
But there's more.
Yes.
But there's more cars.
More other things. There's
more automobiles, and we still haven't cleaned up the whole idea of gasoline.
Well, that's true too. But this is there are some things that the League has marked as important to them.
Right.
For years. And what are some of the other things? Do you know them or?
Like health care, like education.
Mm-hmm.
Child care.
There's a host of, you know.
And have you done study materials on all of these issues too?
And have positions on each one of these
Why don't you,
items.
in our remaining time, tell me if you know what some of the positions are on those topics, and maybe why. Like, for example, child care.
Affordable child care for people.
Does that include, like here in Florida, this pre-K kind of situation? Because that should help not only with care, but also maybe to help some kids get ahead of where they would have been if there wasn't school, right? I mean, get them ready, kindergarten readiness or whatever that is.
I passed legislation which would give any business 50% of their costs in setting up a kindergarten or a child care center in their business. And we had just put $100,000 in it to give to different businesses. 3 businesses in Tampa were the first people that had it, that took advantage of it. But our present governor has vetoed the appropriations for it, so we don't have it anymore.
Really?
Yeah. And the same thing, there was a phone watch that we had. We set it up at USF, where kids could call this number if they were lonely in their house, and they could have someone to talk to, and they cut the funding for that also.
But we have Phone Friend at Northside Mental Health still, don't we?
No, they cut the the money for it.
They did for Phone Friend?
Yes. So it's very discouraging because, if you don't have the rest of your public officials going with you, then they can just eliminate it.
With regard to that, then some of the child care topics. I mean, this is one, of course. There are more businesses we know that have put in something,
Yes.
or they're close to something.
Right.
Are there any other recommendations that the league has about?
They're mainly general statements, you know, like Cindy stated, and they're not
in-depth
way, you know,
the way
telling
we
you
do
how
it.
to do it or whatever. That we will support something, and then we have to find a volunteer or a chair for that particular subject to study it further, or to have you know, public forums on it or whatever. So.
How many chapters are there of the league across the United States? Do you know?
Oh gosh, that'd be hard to say.
How many
Hundreds,
in
or
Florida?
Would there be hundreds? You'd say?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
In Florida?
Well, we have 67 counties, so probably
as many as that?
60.
Yeah, probably
so.
half, I would say.
Yeah, half.
Because Pasco and Hillsborough have merged, so I know there's
Right,
some
Pasco and Hillsborough County have merged here in the past couple years. So,
Yeah, I think that Cindy was right. About half the counties have a league.
So that would make maybe across the country there would be a few, 200 or 300 maybe.
Oh yeah, at least.
Or
At
more
least.
chapters. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
how does somebody get involved in the league if they want to?
I'm glad you asked the
Oh,
question.
I'm sure you are.
You can call us at 831-9774 and leave a message on our voicemail, and someone will get back with you, our membership chair, hopefully. Or you can email us at lwvhc@yahoo.com, and we will get back with you immediately, because we are looking for people to educate. We are looking for people who, like I said before, are interested in influencing public policy in this county. And we have a lot of issues. We just touched on a few of them in this session, but there's a multitude of issues that we have that...
What do you think of some particular to our county that...
The health care issue, I think, is key. I mean, they're cutting budgets right now for the, you know, indigent health care that Phyllis Buzansky had instituted, and it's a model for all the United States, but yet we're cutting. That's one that comes to mind, and that really needs to be monitored and looked at. I don't know if you have one that you'd like to mention, but...
What about the living wage? Have you got a position on that or not?
No.
It's not one of them. When people join the league, do they often also work at the polls?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of league members are poll workers.
Yes.
Okay.
And as you know, we need a lot of poll workers. We're very short on poll workers this election year. So if anyone is interested in being a poll worker,
Then they would call the supervisor of elections
call the
office.
supervisor of elections office. Absolutely.
Could I ask you something about that? Do they have to work the whole 12 hours? Can they work like a half a day?
I don't think so.
No, they have to work
I think
the whole 12 hours.
I think they have to be committed to that day.
They don't want them leaving and talking to anybody, right?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
the deal?
I don't know why, but it's 12 hours is an awfully long time
It
to
is.
ask anybody to work. And I know that I've had troubles trying to initiate having more people interested, but they don't want to work 12 hours.
There's payment too, isn't there, in working for the polls?
Yes,
It's a
yes.
small payment.
Right. And they have training. They will train you to go to the polls.
Right. We probably only have a few minutes left, and I don't know what we failed to cover either about the league or about the importance of voting right now. I think you'd almost have to be an idiot to live in Florida, I hate to say it that way, and not realize how important it would be to vote.
Every vote counts, for sure.
We had a president put in office by 537 votes, some of which were, you know, their votes were thrown out and so forth. And so people think, well, my vote doesn't count, and maybe it's not that important if I go.
But now when the polls show that
how do you
they're
get
neck and neck,
across?
that the
They're neck
presidential
and neck,
tab-
right? The latest polls indicate that we're talking about a very could be a very tight race, unless of course maybe they find Osama bin Laden someplace or something like that. Maybe they've been holding him for a while. I don't know.
Well, even in local races, when Rose Verlita ran the first time, she won by 6 votes.
Well, that's
and,
right.
There was a case in Plant City. She lost by 2 votes. I mean, every vote counts if we can just get that word across to everyone.
So interesting that in other countries that get the right when they didn't have it for such a long time, or they regard it so well, and we take so much for granted, and I don't know if we can continue in that way. Our democracy relies so much on all of this.
And it's easy. I mean, it's so easy now. You can register to vote, multitude of places. You can vote early. You can vote.
You're right. You can vote early. You can vote by mail. You can. Right. This is true.
Yeah. Well, of course, in the totalitarian countries, they're forced to vote. So places like Russia, where you have a 95% turnout for the voting, people are just they have to vote if they want to keep their citizenship in the country, and that's something that we may have to look at.
That's an interesting concept. I didn't know that one. Well, I really appreciate all of you coming down and talking to me about this and letting viewers know about the League of Women Voters, and I congratulate you on all the time all of you have taken since 1954 too. That's a long time to be devoted to an organization. Yes, again, you were 2 or 3 years old, I know that. But I appreciate that and appreciate what you're doing, and I hope you can get everybody out and have a real good turnout, and all the work that you're doing we really appreciate. And I'd just like to also thank, since this is Tampa Bay Community Network, our volunteers, Tom and Marcy, Eddie and Dan, and my production manager, Mary, for putting on this show. And if any of you have some opinions you'd like to share, we'd love for you to come down, take our free training, and also put on a show. Good night. We'll see you next time.